Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Monday, November 29th, 2021. Welcome to day 314. Joe Biden called the new Omicron variant of the coronavirus, quote, a cause for concern, not a cause for panic, end quote, and he urged Americans to get vaccinated, obtain booster shots, and wear masks in indoor public places. Biden added that he didn't believe there would be a need for lockdowns, saying, quote, we're throwing everything we have at this virus, tracking it from every angle. I'm sparing no effort, removing all roadblocks to keep the American people safe, end quote. While administration officials believe the current vaccines likely provide protection against this new variant, it will be a few weeks until scientists know for sure how effective they are against Omicron. Drug makers, however, cautioned that existing vaccines could be less effective, and the CDC now recommends all adults should get a booster shot. The new COVID-19 variant has been detected in more than a dozen countries, though not yet in the United States. Biden announced travel bans on South Africa and 7 other countries, warning that it's almost inevitable that the variant will turn up in the United States at some point. Meanwhile, the White House told federal agencies that they can delay punishing the roughly 3.5% of federal workers who failed to comply with Biden's vaccine mandate, which took effect last week. Agencies instead will pursue education and counseling as the, quote, first step in an enforcement process, end quote, and take no further actions beyond letters of reprimand for unvaccinated employees until January 1st, 2022. As of last week, 92% of the roughly 3.5 million people in the federal workforce and military had received at least one shot, while an additional 4.5% had requested exemptions. Moving on, Trump argued that the pursuit of his White House records by the congressional committee investigating the Capitol riot could permanently damage the presidency. Quote, the committee's clear disdain for President Trump is leading them to a course of action that will result in permanent damage to the institution of the presidency, Trump's attorneys wrote in a brief filed in federal court. Trump has asserted executive privilege over his White House records, which Biden has refused to grant. Earlier this month, federal judge Tanya Chutkan ruled against Trump, saying that he had no power to override the current president's administrative decisions. A federal appeals court will hear oral arguments on November 30th in the historic case. Steve Bannon, meanwhile, filed a motion to request all documents in his contempt of Congress case be made public, saying, quote, members of the public should make their own independent judgment as to whether the U.S. Department of Justice is committed to a just result based upon all the facts, end quote. Meanwhile, the committee investigating the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol plans to vote on holding a second Trump ally in contempt of Congress. The committee will meet this week to vote on whether the full House should refer Jeffrey Clark to the DOJ on criminal contempt charges. Clark is a former DOJ official who was involved in Trump's unsuccessful efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election, and he appeared for a deposition on November 5th, but refused to answer questions, saying that he was, quote, duty-bound not to provide testimony to your committee covering information protected by the former president's assertion of executive privilege, end quote. And finally, the Pentagon ordered an investigation into a U.S. airstrike in Syria in 2019 that killed dozens of women and children. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's decision follows recent allegations that the Trump administration covered up the airstrike, which killed 80 people. General Michael Garrett will examine the strike over the next 90 days to determine whether any recommendations from previous inquiries were carried out and whether anyone should be held accountable. And just a quick roundup of notables before we leave. The Supreme Court will take up a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade on Wednesday. Government funding will run out on Friday. The U.S. could hit its debt limit as soon as the 15th of this month. Democrats are trying to pass Biden's Build Back Better plan in the Senate by Christmas, and the House and Senate both need to pass the annual defense policy bill. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditis.